What's happening, guys? Welcome back to Vertical Football. Welcome back to another episode of the Manchester United Fans Corner. I'm your host, Agoume. Guys, it's Monday, and as usual, we're here to discuss Manchester United. I think the most important story, the most important discussion right now in Manchester United, apart from the decision about who is going to be the next full-time manager of Man United, is who are we going to sign in the midfield? I think that's, as you guys would agree, that's been the most important discussion. And so a lot of names have been popping up. And it's our duty here that whenever the names pop up, whenever we see that there's a little bit of credibility in the reports, that we come, we analyze the player, and we say if it's someone that we can look into or if it's someone that we should just move on and not try to attempt to bring to the club. So guys, for today's episode, we have a player that we've analyzed the player at least 6 months ago. We did an analysis on the player, and that's Lucien Agoumé of Sevilla, the French international. And today again, we begin to see reports about different reporters saying the fact that Christopher Vivell is looking at Lucien Agoumé, and he has identified Lucien Agoumé as a cheaper option that can be the Casemiro replacement, right? A cheaper option that can also give us exactly what a Casemiro will give us, and it's also very young, So we want to analyze Lucien Agoumé again because we've done it 6 months ago, but let's refresh our minds about who the player is, what does he bring. So as usual, before we go into any analysis of any player, we want to clearly define what we want, because if you don't know what you want, you end up buying just anything. So we want to clearly refresh our minds about what we want in that Casemiro role. We said it that we don't just want a destroyer. Man United does not just need to get a destroyer. Football is evolving, and teams are not necessarily using that pure destroyer. People are using a number 6 that, can do the destroying job well, but also someone that has a decent level of, capacity on the ball in terms of can help you to control the tempo of the game, can help you, to be that anchor man in terms of being the anchor and the focal point of how your on-the-ball activities go, how you go about your on-the-ball activities, and somebody also that, if need be, is someone that can also push forward, and help the team in certain attacking duties in terms of in front of the box 18, right? So guys, let's talk about what Lucien Agoumé brings and if he fits into the ideal number 6 that we're looking for at Manchester United. So first and foremost, Lucien Agoumé is currently at a CM. I think his primary role is a CM. But the fact is that when you look at his game, he's all-rounder in terms of he can be that CM and a double pivot with the likes of Kobe Mino, right? And when Kobe moves forward, he's someone that also has the ability to sit back and be in front of the defensive unit, right? So he's someone that also that in situations whereby Kobe decides to, okay, let me go back and collect the ball from the defense, but I want my partner to push forward. Agoume is also someone that can also push forward to help the team in terms of running down the channels and doing one or two good actions there. So guys, let's move on to his qualities quickly. First and foremost, I think one of the major things that stands out from Agoume, anytime you see Agoume, is the first thing that stands out to you is the fact of his physicality. Agoume is a physical midfielder. And I've said it before, United's midfield needs physicality. I think we need that physicality. I think since after the likes of Nemanja Matic left our club, I think the most physical midfield we've had after Alex Ferguson, you want to say, is the midfield pivot of Pogba and Nemanja Matic. I think at that moment, you could not see the physicality. Matic was that midfielder that brought that physicality in terms of the ability to have the ball, to hold players off. Even Pogba at that moment would hold the ball and hold players off. And I think Agoume brings that in terms of, you can see it's physical. And I think we need that. Premier League midfielders, the best Premier League midfielders, in terms of CM or DM role, are very physical. The likes of Caicedo, physical. The likes of even Declan Rice, right? Physical. So the game, it demands physicality, and I think Agoume has that. But not just physicality alone. I think when you also look at the technique of Agoume, is decent. I think Agoume, as I've said before, Agoume has a better technique on the ball than even Emmanuel Ugarte. When you look at Agoume on the ball, you feel that, yes, it's not the top technique, it's not the top technique that you expect from the likes of maybe Wharton, or you look for the likes of, maybe the Rodriguez and the likes of the world. But is decent in terms of his technique. You can see that when he plays the ball, when he moves with the ball, he doesn't have difficulties like that on the ball. I think, and that's really nice to see in terms of decent technique. His ability also of a good passing range. And I think that's something we also need. And we've said many times that our midfielder must not just be a midfielder that plays the simple pass. You know, this is United, and midfielders at Manchester United must be willing to take the risk. Right? Football is all about risks, but at Manchester United, for us to become the top team we desire, our midfielders must not be the ones to play the simple pass, to the sides. Or we need midfielders that are able to play penetrative passes. We need midfielders that are able to play the short, the long, the medium passes, right? Medium range passes. And I think Agoume has a decent passing range. And I think that for me is really, really amazing when I see that whenever he plays the ball, there's a little bit of comfort. It's not showing obvious difficulties like maybe Manuel Gatti will show or maybe other midfielders will show. So I think in terms of technique and passing range, I think it's quite there, which is also something that we look for. Now, I think also in his game, because I said he's an all-rounder, the guy is a very, very hard-working player, and that's Lucien Agoumé, very hard-working player. When you look at the heat map, for example, you see that the guy covers literally almost every area of the pitch. The guy is someone that you can use as a DM, CM. He's someone that sometimes you can even use in terms of 2 number 8s, right? Push forward and then maybe somebody's behind him. Push forward, do the dirty job, do the hard working, the hard work really in terms of the midfield. I feel he has that. He gives us that vertical push in terms of the ability of him to take the ball and run and, progress the ball by running. And that's something we've clamored for also in terms of our midfield. Currently at Man United, we don't have a midfielder that can carry the ball and move and that we can do it consistently, right? And so we need someone like this that can actually take the ball and push the team forward, run, pacing, progress us forward with his vertical runs. But I think also, even when he's doing that, we also have to look at it that he also has to do it at the right time because this is the Premier League, right? And also with the dynamics of the fact that if he's the one they want to bring in, at certain points, definitely he will be partnered with Kobe Mainoo, right? If not every time, but at certain points, he will partner with Kobe Mainoo. And we know that when you have someone like Kobe Mainoo as your midfield partner, you have to choose the right moment to be that vertical push, right? Because Kobe also wants to push forward. And so when Kobe pushes forward, he also has to know that, okay, I have to retain here. And I think that's one of the discussions we had about Sandro Tonali, that if you use Tonali and Kobe Mainoo, Tonali likes moving forward. Tonali loves to bump forward, right? And so you need to have that right balance between when are you bumping forward and when are you sitting back. And I feel that in as much as Agoume loves to, has that quality in him to push forward, right? Agoume still offers a little bit more balance than maybe Sandro Tonali because, no matter how you want to tell Tonali to sit back, Tonali still has that itch to want to push forward, right? But Agoume is someone that can be more disciplined in terms of letting the likes of Kobe push forward and maybe having a double 8 in terms of Kobe and Bruno up front and him be the single pivot of a 6. So Agoume offers that a little bit more discipline in that area. The guy is a hard worker, as I said earlier, beast. The guy runs every area. His vertical push is not just central, as some midfielders, that you see that their vertical push is just central. Agoume has the ability to run down the channels in terms of the left-hand side, the right-hand side, and everywhere. The guy is really, really good, really, really good. Also, I think his game also in terms of on-the-ball activities, quick release. I think that's also something that we talked about when we analyzed Sandro Tonali. There is no much design or trying to be much more complexities in his game. Really, it's just I collect the ball, quick release. And I think in that role, you need that. Even though yes, you want your number 6 to be more elaborate in their play, someone that can maroon, someone that can kill the game by holding the tempo, someone that can do some more elaborate things on the ball. But someone like Agoume is quick releases. So that's a positive in one side because in terms of breaking in terms of transition, right, from changing defense to attack quickly, it will help us in that. But also when you're looking at the fact that if you want your number 6 to be more elaborate in terms of when you are playing maybe a mid to low block team and you want your midfielder to hold the ball a little bit more to try and find passing lines in terms of in tight structures, that's where the difficulty now comes in because he is someone that is just, quick release. He's someone that is good for transition. But when the opponent is in mid to low block, then we cannot begin to have questions. Also, interceptions are very, very good. The guy really, really has a good reading ability on the game. He can intercept well. And I think that's something we need in our team right now, because when you look at the last 3-4 games we've played, especially the game against West Ham, Everton, our midfield really, really has suffered from our inability to intercept the passes of the opponent in the midfield, right? And so someone like Agoume is someone that has a good reading ability, and we said it is one of the qualities we need in our midfield, especially our number 6, someone that can actually intercept the ball, can win the ball, intercept the ball, and then give us an opportunity to have a lot more transitional moments, which we know that currently is what we are doing in our team. So I think he brings that to the game. But as I said, the tempo control is also a question, right? In terms of, it's always quick, but the tempo control is also a question in his game. Is it something that he can improve upon? Yes, I think he can improve upon it in terms of holding on to the ball a little bit more in certain situations and trying to dictate the play. But it will be difficult, but I believe it's something that maybe he can get better at. I think lastly for me, in terms of the qualities of Lucien Agoumé, I think the area abilities, I think is very, very good. I think it's very, very good. I think our current midfielders at United, I know Casemiro obviously is good in area situations, but I think Casemiro only, and that means that if Casemiro obviously is going to be leaving, whoever we want to bring on board, we have to look at the area strength of the guy to help our team. All our other midfielders, we cannot really depend on them in terms of area situations, right? But Agoume brings a lot in terms of area superiority, and I feel that's a very good part of his game. That's a very good part of his game that we had to this United team. But now back to the main point in terms of we've analyzed Agoume right now. We now want to dive deep into the news. And the news is the fact that Christopher Vivell is looking at Agoume to be a low-cost option to the likes of Elliot Anderson, because there are reports that Elliot Anderson or Manchester City is looking towards Elliot Anderson. And so Agoume is being viewed as the lower cost or the cheap cost alternative to the likes of Elliot Anderson and Baleba. My take on this is that 6 months ago, I said this. I'm still maintaining my stance today. Agoume would be a fantastic squad player for Man United. He's a player you want to have in your squad. I do not believe that Agoume has the top quality, that high ceiling, that high potential that you want a starter for Man United to have. Very good player, very good ceiling, but I don't believe he's that top talent. And for me, I believe that when you have a midfield of Bruno Fernandes, when you have a midfield of Casemiro, you have to invest, in terms of quality for whoever is going to be the third person in that partnership. So I'm not against Agoume coming in. 6 months ago, I said it. I'm saying it again today. I'm not against Agoume coming in as one of the midfielders. If you're going to get 2 midfielders, I'm not against Agoume coming in as the second midfielder, but I did not see Agoume as the starting midfield for Man United. I do not see it. And I've said it, and I will repeat it again, that in the choice of our midfield option, I don't think we should be looking at a checkbook. I think you should just look at which player has the quality that we want, the quality that we believe can be the next solid midfielder for the next 5-6 years at Man United. Which midfielder is that? And then we'll go for him no matter what the cost is. For example, I have different examples. Caicedo for Chelsea. When Chelsea bought Caicedo, I don't think anybody here would agree that Caicedo was worth 100 million plus. But today, it's worth the 100 million plus. Look at, for example, Declan Rice was bought for 100 million. At that point, Declan Rice is a decent midfielder. But nobody really, it was an argument. Is it really worth the 100 million? But today is worth it. And I think that should be our view in terms of the player we might buy on paper at the moment might not look like a 100 million player. But if we've done our scouting for the likes of maybe Elliot Anderson or the likes of Baleba, if we've done our scouting, I will be like, this player has the potential to be a top midfielder, and is a solid mainstay in our team for the next 5-6 years. Why don't you go and buy the player? So I repeat, I'm not against Agoume coming in, but I don't believe Agoume has the qualities to be the starter for Man United. So my message to Man United is, Get Agoume if that's your fancy and that's the profiles you want to have in your team, which I also think is very decent. But please, it can't be our starter. So let's go for, who we believe can be our starter for the next 5 to 6 years. And let's not look at the checkbook. So guys, these are my opinions on Lucien Agoumé. I know you have your own opinions on it. I know. So obviously, please just drop it in the comment section. Let's have that discussion. Do you think Agoume is going to be a good fit for Man United? What are the qualities that you are most impressed with in his game? What are the parts of his game you think he can improve upon? Let's have that discussion. This is my own take. So guys, thank you for sticking with me. I made my humble self, Agoume. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and most importantly, don't forget to share. Until I see you next time. Bye.